Welcome to Film Strip Sessions. I'm Jay,
I'm Lindsay.
I'm Ron.
And I'm Brian.
and this is our general topics discussion show for those who may not be familiar with Sessions, where we don't necessarily review a single movie, but we go in depth about a few movie-related items that we want to discuss. So first of all, Happy New Year, Lindsay, Ron, Brian. How y'all doing? What's been going on? What you been watching lately?
Been watching a lot of action movies, Jay. It's just where the idea came from. Nothing new. Well, some new things. And then what else have we been watching? We've started a couple of different that 90s show.
Well, we kind of came out of Christmas movies because we were in the groove
Yeah,
of watching
yeah.
something, and then kind of switched gears, into the action genre.
Yeah.
Very
What about you
cool.
guys?
I haven't been watching anything basically. I watched a bunch of Mystery Science Theater 3000 episodes on the MST3K permanent live stream that's on YouTube. But
Nice.
and then obviously as much of New Year's Evil as I could between
Yes.
interruptions, and as much of the usual Christmas classics that I could. But other than that, nothing special.
I finally caught up with Beetlejuice, and it was exactly like I expected it would be. It would fall apart in the third act, and by George, it delivered on that. So, because all Tim Burton movies have that in common, where they cannot land. And so I did catch up on that, and I saw Juror number two. I did watch that, the last Clint Eastwood directed movie, and it's pretty good. I mean, for what it is, it's just your basic drama thriller type thing. But I like Nicholas Holt and I like courtroom drama stuff, so it was fun. It as a movie it read like a John Grisham book you forgot, But it was pretty good. Like I was like, I like it. This is good. This could have been more. But no, I saw those and then have been a little under the weather, so need to catch up with Nosferatu and some of the other things. But of course, still watching some James Bond movies for something I'll talk about later that we've got going on in 2025. So been catching up on those here and there. But yeah, because Amazon had them out for like 5 minutes, and then Pluto decided, no, here they all are for free all the time. Enjoy yourself. And so once again, Tubi or Pluto comes through when I need them to. So
Yeah, the two best streaming services out there,
yeah, hands
Pluto
down.
and Tubi.
Indeed, hands down. Who are not sponsors of this podcast, but if they would like to be,
We're
filmstrippodcast
happy
at
to.
gmail.com.
I even pulled out a couple of like real Blu-rays over the
Wow.
last month and watched them in our OG DVD Blu-ray player. Went old
Nice.
school.
Nice. I haven't
hmm
put
Is
a
Blu-ray old
disc.
school?
because it's not streaming.
No, you can still buy it. It's not old school, I don't think.
You can still buy DVDs.
Can't buy VHS.
No.
You
I think they
actually
do come out with some
can.
limited edition ones. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a few that
lots
come
of.
out.
That's the thing now, is that people who want to be 80s movie makers will put their movie out on VHS, and you'll get a nice big VHS box.
Yeah.
Sometimes with fake like staff approval stickers on it and stuff. It's great.
That's
I
hilarious. So VHS is like the new record, like vinyl records.
yes, I would love a long legs like plastic clamshell VHS. I'm just speaking that into the universe, by the way.
Yeah.
Did you?
That,
I didn't see Long Legs.
oh, y'all need to
Did
check
you
that
see
out. It's
Long
pretty
Legs?
good.
Okay.
That's a good. That's a
That's
good.
Nicolas Cage, right?
As Nicolas Cage, but Michael Monroe is really the star in it, and she's awesome. So, but we're here for Sessions because the topic is the identity crisis of today's action movies. And Lindsay, you texted Ron and I about that, and immediately our ears perked up, and we're like, "Ooh, this sounds like an interesting idea." So please do lay out for us your thesis and theme. And I know Brian has been your confidant in this as well. So,
Well, we've been in all in on the Christmas movies pretty much for all of December. Since Thanksgiving, really, maybe a little before, let's be honest. And we were coming out of it and started watching some different action movies, newer ones that we hadn't seen. And a lot of them fell really flat. And a lot of the action movies that we had watched from 2024, specifically prior to our Christmas movie binge, I feel like also fell really flat for me. Brian doesn't agree with all of them, but and the one that I was watching when I was texting you guys, I think was Rebel Ridge. And
Mm.
it had so much promise and then ended up being really disappointing. And I just was, I don't know. It could have been so much more. And I wanted so much more. And I don't know. Nothing really blew my mind. There were a few diamonds in the rough, I feel like this year. We went through a few. What did we do? The Union was all right. Beekeeper.
The Beekeeper.
Yeah.
I thought we liked it.
Beekeeper's
You were not
cool.
as much of a fan, but I liked it quite a bit. I thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Jason Statham. So Jason Statham could be in a total shit action movie, but as long as he gets his fight scenes and a few cool kills, like it's still a satisfying movie to watch usually. I just felt like for one of his movies, it wasn't, it wasn't top tier.
Listen, I paid actual money to see Jason Statham karate kick a fucking shark in a theater. So I will watch that man do anything. And I knew that was going to happen. I had read the book. So, way back in the day, I was like, I got to see Statham do this because there's no way. And actually kept in how he kills the shark in the movie, which I was surprised. But
Well,
anyway.
there's a few, leading dudes and ladies in action movies that we'll get to, like they could be in anything and I'll watch it. Jason Statham's one of them. I don't care. I've watched really crappy movies that he's been in. Doesn't really matter because he's still in it, and so it wasn't a total loss. Mark Wahlberg, he's another one. I feel like he could be in most of the stuff that he's in is usually, pretty good.
Hey, bro, I'm praying a priest. It's got a machine gun, bro.
Yeah.
Boy, what are you looking at, you Meg?
And then Russell Crowe is like playing like these like exorcism priests like ass kickers now for reasons like which I'm kind of here for that. I did like the Pope's Exorcist. I don't know if y'all saw that or not, but I mean it's garbage, but it's fun garbage. So
I
Yeah.
feel like Russell Crowe has determined that his career is going to be fun garbage.
yeah,
I think once he did the Man with
Road
the Iron
Rage.
Fists or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
where he played Jackknife, he decided that his wheelhouse is going to be ridiculous stuff he doesn't have to be in shape for.
Oh yeah, when he played the dad bod like road rage guy in New Orleans or whatever, like I was here for that. Like that was a fun watch. I mean, it's dumb, but it's fun. It can be fun. I think the thing that when you sent that, Lindsay, the immediate thing I thought of was like, if someone were to ask me like write down anybody under the age of 40 that's an action star today, I would be like total blank. Unless it's somebody from like Hong Kong or the DTV stuff that like the action for everyone guys would obsess over. I couldn't tell you a mainstream anybody under 40 like that's doing action movies.
We didn't talk about that. Yeah. I don't.
I feel like cutting it off at 4, you could probably cut it off at 45 and still get nobody.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think
I
I
mean,
keep
even
going
Statham
up,
is in his late 40s at this point, and
Yeah.
and like you said, unless you go to like Iko Uwais or Tony Jaa or people who would work with not friend of the podcast but associate Discord user of the Action for Everyone Discord, Liam O'Donnell. If they would be in a Liam O'Donnell movie,
Mhm.
they probably don't count. And I say that as someone who likes Liam and likes his movies, but like none
Yeah.
of those guys are mainstream people. Like Scott Adkins is the closest to mainstream, and he is not under 45 at this point either.
No, I mean, like the
who is there?
biggest action stars we've named him Statham and friggin' Tom Cruise, who's in his 60s. He's like really the last
Oh,
movie
yeah.
star, and because he
Well,
still does that
in
stuff.
one of my leading action ladies, Michelle Rodriguez, Letty in
Yes.
Fast and Furious, and
Mhm.
every other good female character, with
Mhm.
the exception of Sigourney Weaver, I think.
Yeah.
But like she's 45-ish, I think. Little
Mm.
47.
She's in her 40s for sure because
Yeah.
she
Mhm.
because the same deal with Mila Jovovich, who is the other
Yeah.
like big, was the last mainstream like female action star. Like,
The Resident Evil. Yeah.
yeah, if and those are definitely action movies because
Oh
I
yeah.
mean she does so many kicks and flips and there's so much gun fu in those. Like, that's the
Mhm.
thing. We're getting to you don't get straight action movies anymore unless you're like doing John Wick movies. So you'll
Yeah.
get like Anna de Armas will be in The Ballerina, and she may be the next one. She may be the only one under 40 who becomes an action movie person. But then again, she's probably not because she's like a legitimate actress too, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like if people have options not to be in action movies, they're
Mhm.
gonna not do action movies because they don't want to stay in that kind of shape or they don't want to take that kind of beating or just the box office isn't there. Like
Mhm.
you can get killed for 3 months making an action movie, or you can do a Marilyn Monroe biopic and get like awards attention. Like, which one of these is gonna like be the better career move?
I mean, yeah,
See,
like
that's
I loved Amber Midthunder in Prey, that was out in 2022, that Predator franchise, thing. And I've been kind of keeping up with what she's going to do next. And I've seen her name pop up in some stuff, but she's not mainstream enough yet, I don't think. And she's doing a movie with Jack Quaid called Novocaine. I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer for this, but he's like, I don't know, he has some sort of disorder where he can't feel any pain, so he's constantly like hurting himself, and then all of a sudden he decides to become like a hitman or some nonsense. I don't know. It seems kind of goofy, and I'm sort of here for it. But again, I mean, he's under 30 or whatever. But the way it plays is not like a straight action movie. It's a comedy, or it's a movie that's got like it's about some other theme or whatever. And I think the thing that I'm missing, like when you say that, Lindsay, about today's action movies, there's no friggin' fun anymore. Like everybody's so self-serious about stuff. Do y'all feel that way? I feel like I go to watch these movies sometimes and I'm like, oh God, I have to think about how crappy the world is now. I just wanted to watch you jump off of a plane or something. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think there's a couple interesting points here. I mean, number one, I'm not sure why younger stars wouldn't want to become involved in action movies. I think that a lot of stars have kind of carved their way through that genre. I think that look, given the chance, if Hollywood's going to pay some trainer to make me look shredded for 3 to 6 months, instead of being some fat alcoholic in a romantic comedy, I'd much rather get toned and
Shredded.
fit and shredded and get paid to get in shape. And of course, at this point, I got to believe that they wouldn't have a younger star be the main role. So I can only imagine that you'd be working alongside with probably another iconic actor. So it does kind of, make me wonder why this isn't something that we've seen more of just yet. Um, but this is a little bit out of my realm, but I can't really think of many other actors that are younger, even taking comedy roles. But I'm sure I'm way out of line there.
I
Well, I
can
mean,
I can
it,
tell you like I can tell you where they're all going. They're all doing comic book movies.
yeah, I was about to bring that up.
Mm,
Yeah.
That's like who's like Andrew Garfield should be doing action movies and he's doing Spider-Man shit still.
Tom
Uh,
Holland
Tom
is doing
Holland, he
Uncharted
Those are
was
so
kind of an
boring.
action movie.
It's like they're
yeah.
doing the same thing over and over again, just in a different way all the time. I would much rather see another movie about somebody hijacking a plane or jumping out of it or going crazy or something like that. That
Hmm.
would be a lot of fun. It would
Yeah.
be cool to see a younger, new Rock coming onto the scene, or somebody like that, or a new Keanu Reeves. But those guys are 52 and 60 years old at this point.
Did any of y'all see that movie Crawl in 2019? The Alejandro Aja. He's kind of a
No.
thriller horror dude. It's
is
a
it
Sam
the
Raimi produced thing. It's about the alligators that
yeah,
kind of swim in.
Jay, I believe I did an article on Den of Geek for that one question mark.
Okay,
Maybe I'm
because
getting it confused with a different weird alligator movie, but that sounds really familiar. There was another one
Kaya
that
Scodelario is the star in it, and she's like basically has to escape this house during like this hurricane flood when these alligators are like getting in the house. It's really good.
Oh,
It got
I
played off like a
did see.
horror
Yeah,
movie,
yeah, yeah.
but
It
it's
did.
really more
It
of an action movie. So
do you
came. I don't think it was on our bracket, but something it came. I don't know. I've seen pieces of it for sure. That was
That movie made $100 million on I think it got made for like 10. Like it was nothing, and but it's awesome. So
I am thinking about a different alligator movie. So my bad.
there've been some alligator. There's been an
The-
alligator
the
movie.
was it
one
Lake
I'm-
Placid, Ron?
No, the one I'm thinking about had Sid Haig in it, so that should tell you how old it was. But it was a movie that came out in 4,000 theaters and nobody saw it. It's the most complicated tax dodge thing I think I've ever seen.
Are you
But it
talking
got-
about Creature from 2011?
Probably.
There's an alligator involved in this apparently. So
Yeah, it's some sort of like alligator monster.
yeah,
Um,
person thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like I think that's it. But it was out in 4,000 theaters. Like it was not just a wide release, it was a super wide release.
Mhm.
And like I went to see it after the Sunday after the Friday box office came back and said this movie made like $10,000 in the United States.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
only
like,
made like
okay,
500 grand in its theatrical run. So
I was like, all right, I got to jump on this thing because this is going to be insane. How did this even
Mhm.
happen? And
Yeah.
yeah, but I think the thing is that the studios that used to make action movies no longer exist,
Mm.
and there's no mid-budget movie anymore. You're either making a horror movie for $20,000 or $20 million, or $20,000
Also $20,000.
if you're the guy, if you're Oren
original
Pelly
Terrifier.
from
Yeah.
or Terrifier man, whose name escapes me. Don't tell me, Anthony. I'm not going to remember. Or you're making a $200 million, cape movie. There's not any middle ground because there's not any coked out Israeli businessmen with shady connections who are like, yeah, we make a movie with Charles Bronson in Indonesia.
You speak of the Golden Globus, of course.
Yeah, we make it $100,000. We sell it, can everybody buy it because Charles Bronson make perfume ad in Japan.
See, I feel like those things exist again, but they're like in the Asian market and stuff, and they miss mainstream audience because, like you're saying, there's nobody pushing them, you know. And my question is, and Brian, I'm going to throw this to you. Do you think there's still an audience, like younger audience, that will go and see like action movies that don't have this big bankable like Tom Cruise level star or Keanu Reeves or something like that?
I think there would be, but I think kind of, going back to what we were saying earlier, there's really no younger actor that a lot of us are following, so there's not a whole lot of movies that are going to follow because nobody's amped up to see anything that's coming out with a younger actor. I mean, and I think that's kind of, maybe what's going on here is a lot of people feel that when they see the same actors, it's going to be a similar plot and a similar style and similar fighting, and everything else is going to be something that they've already seen before. But I think we're ready for it. I think there absolutely is a need for it. I'll tell you, I would consider this, I guess, a Christmas action movie, but I don't know if you guys saw Red One. But I think that does kind of qualify in this case. But sitting around the dinner table on Christmas and New Year's, I'd heard a lot of positive feedback from family, and it was really kind of all ages, which was interesting. So I think in that case it was different because it was a different take on the holiday and kind of how the whole Santa operation works in that case. But people are still very interested in action. They absolutely are. I think it's just there's a whole crowd of people out there that just it doesn't have to be an over the top Mission Impossible every single time. There's absolutely a market for a mid-range or mid-budget movie, and there's just not that many of them. As we've said before, it's all kind of going the route of the comic movies and romantic comedies is what I'm seeing.
And the people who like are making, or at least trying to make mid-budget action movies, are like Amazon, and they're just making them for streaming. Like, think about that Roadhouse remake with Jake Gyllenhaal,
Yeah.
who might
Which I
be
really liked,
It was fun.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
like,
it was fun. Exactly. And I think, Ron, you brought it up earlier, Jay, one of you guys brought it up. Like, action movies just feel like they've lost some of the fun factor.
That was
They
me,
feel
yeah.
really, a lot of them feel really preachy,
Yeah.
like the newer ones. Like they're trying to make some kind of statement. And really, we just want to see shit blown up.
Well, I mean, like think about the Shane Black Christmas movies that we did. And, you guys did
Hmm.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and I was on the Lethal Weapon show and stuff. Like those movies were fun, and they had stuff to say. Like there were themes in there, but they were also just fun, And I don't think there's anybody like Shane Black out there right now doing this kind of stuff. At least I haven't, found him or seen him. Ron, you're more tapped into the writing scene, I think, than either of us. But
I don't feel like there's a market for that kind of guy anymore. Like I'm sure there are people probably out there doing great work that are just as good as Shane Black right now, but we're never going to see those movies. Or if we do, it's because we seek them out specifically for some reason. They get
yeah,
some buzz, or some of our action movie friends like pitch them to us, or some of our action movie friends make them. But that's not. There's not a sustainable market, and I keep going back to that. But it's. I think one of the reasons that we've hit on is that a lot of these movies feel interchangeable, right? You're going to see the same MMA inspired fight scenes, right? There's going to be some grappling. Somebody's going to get like a flying head scissors. Somebody's going to break an arm or something. There's going to be some sub John Wick gun fu type stuff. And I think, and I said this in our text thread, but I'll say it here. I think the reason why these movies don't break out, why they don't do them as much, why they don't catch on, is that there are no signature weapons for the action movie heroes anymore. You get a lot of dudes who are just like scrapping with whatever, picking up guns off the ground, stuff like that. Like, where is Chuck Norris with two Uzis, right?
right,
Where's Rambo with a bow and arrow and a big ass knife and tying a headband on? Like,
right.
where's
Well,
Charles
even
Bronson?
simpler. Where's Riggs and John McClane with the Beretta 92F?
Yeah, the
You
Beretta
know,
92. Where's the crazy, wildly 475 uh, pistol like
Death Wish 3.
Charles
Yes,
Bronson had in Death Wish 3? Like
yeah,
that. Where's the 44 Magnum?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like the last movie I saw where a dude had like a signature gun wasn't even like really an action movie. It was Snatch, and it was
Mm.
Another Jason Statham classic.
Yes,
and it
indeed.
was in another movie that they don't really make anymore. But it was Bullet Tooth Tony with the Desert Eagle, and you get that the shot of the guys go to rob him at the pub, and he's there with his drink. And he's like, and you've got replica down the side of your gun, and I've got Desert Eagle .50 down the side of mine, and that should precipitate your balls to shrinking.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, you're right. Like I remember when they did that Romeo plus Juliet, the Baz
I
Luhrmann
was
one, and
just thinking of that
they turned the
scene.
swords into guns.
Yep.
Like that was like good. I think I put it in the text thread. I was like, I miss action movies that are all about the gun porn. Like
Hmm.
there was just good gun porn in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah,
Or
well, I think we were talking about this before, but it seems like, Hollywood's kind of stripped out a lot of what they call as toxic masculinity, right? So this whole glorification of weapons and guns and knives and everything else, it really feels like they're trying to tone that back. Like they're trying to not make that the focal point. They don't want kids kind of focused on how cool that gun is as much as I think they should. And as enjoyable as it would be, it really feels like that's kind of the way that this has gone. And at the crux of it, I feel like that's kind of what's missing from all these recent action movies is that just, dripping masculinity, the Rambo, the massive gun, just absolutely going for it. And now we're kind of getting away from that.
I mean, what's the closest thing you have to like a signature gun these days? The two little zapper pistol things that Star-Lord uses in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Like,
Yeah.
where is Arnold Schwarzenegger with the sawed-off rifle with the big loop in it, so you could do the cool loop spin
Oh, the
thing?
shotgun that he could flip around.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
modified Winchester. Or,
Yeah,
even
that's a
like,
good
Jesse
question.
Ventura's walking around the jungle in Predator with a friggin' minigun off of a helicopter. You
yeah,
know.
and they don't have to be real guns. Take a gun and movie magic it up to make it look cool. Like, just think of speaking of the Beretta 93, um, RoboCop. That's not
Yeah.
a real gun. It looks awesome. It's a,
Yeah.
it's it's a whatever they call it. I think they call it the Auto 9.
The
It's got all those different cool
yeah.
animation or ammunition choices. Like, give me a fake gun that does cool shit.
That's the one thing I will ding that RoboCop remake on because I actually like that movie is that they kind of strip the gun cool stuff. Like part of it's a taser, and then he's got like a machine gun in his leg, and he can set it to stun or sort of stun or bubble gum or they kind of the best scene is Jackie Earle Haley kind of making fun of him in it, but like they sort of wasted it in that. But yeah, you're right. The original RoboCop, like that gun was the like part of the character. It was just an extension of the arm, and.
But
But
like
you're onto something
even
though, Brian. Again, we wanted to try to tone all that down. We don't want people like fetishizing that stuff. But that was what like made it cool because it's like your action figure has an accessory, and that's
Right.
part of it.
Yeah.
but even like the original RoboCop gun could fire non-lethal rounds. That's one of the options it uses.
Yeah, yeah.
So like, give me a bullet or give me a piece of ammunition that hits a dude and tasers him and he falls over.
I think
That's
it's
cool.
another
And
thing
you animate
too.
and you do like animation to animate the little electrical shock effect. Maybe he smokes a little bit after he falls over. I don't know.
Yeah. I think you're onto something though, and I call it the John Wickening of a lot of movies. Is there's a lot of like realism in those, but there's also some non-realism, like a suit that will block bullets. It's sort of ridiculous. But all the weaponry in there, like, is very like you could go and buy it. It looks real. It has to function in a functionality. Whereas, used to be, man, like, James Bond had the Walther PPK, but he also had like all kinds of cool stuff, in the back of his car. And I've been watching a lot of those Bond movies, like I say, and there's nothing like just there's some stupid stuff, but there's a lot of just like really practical. All it is, like you said, Ron, they've taken a real thing and they just build on top of it and make it look sort of exotic and strange. There's the one in Living Daylights where he's got this really super cool sniper rifle, and the woman cellist is trying to shoot somebody with a gun that's like twice as big as she is. And it's sort of that's the joke of the movie, but it was fun to see because that gun like makes appearances throughout the rest of the show. It's like a plot point, and I don't know, we don't do that anymore.
No, no, and especially with James Bond, I really feel like that's one of the reasons that Daniel Craig 007 movies are not my favorite ones. I still like them, but it really kind of felt like Pierce Brosnan was the last one that really kind of represented that um that fantasy type spy that had all the gadgets, all the gear. He had everything that was cool. He had an invisible car at one point. And he just kind of had it all. And then, there was Daniel Craig, and it just seemed like everything had to be a lot more real. Everything had to be a lot more believable. And that's not what I wanted to see. I want the Pierce Brosnan type James Bond. I want the guy that I will never be that is absolutely not believable. But is definitely one of the coolest guys in the room.
Yeah.
I feel like that a lot of that can be traced back to having to compete with the Jason Bourne movies, which that's kind of like the last big action franchise, but also like kind of killed action movies because all of a sudden every action movie had to be serious and Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, it's James Bond kind of shit.
Yeah, yeah, you're not wrong. Like I think even Nick and I even talked about that when we did those porn flicks way back in the archives, is that the tentacles of those got into everything else, and you now the characters of like the handlers and the people in the office became just as important as the spy. And I mean, like you watch Bond movies because the Q scene is fun and the couple of
Yeah.
scenes with M are fun, but they're not as important as Bond and the henchmen and all that kind of stuff. And when we put them on the same level, you're now thinning out what the star can be, right?
Do you think that's more of a symptom of the need to cover for the fact that all of our action stars are middle-aged or pushing AARP memberships? You can't have like a 57-year-old man be the center of your movie killing everyone because it's gonna at a certain point it's gonna like be damaging physically to that actor, right?
Mm.
Like even Tom Cruise, as insane as he is, will have to rest
Mhm.
every now and then. So maybe, and I think part of it also is like now you got to pad the movie out. You can't have a 90-minute action movie anymore. Can't, God forbid you
Yeah.
do 85 minutes. No, everything's got to be 2 hours.
I mean,
Yeah, a lot of 2+ hour action movies.
Yep.
Unnecessarily.
Yeah,
2+
I miss
hours.
the set, like say hour and 40-minute action movie.
Yeah.
Like just that perfect sweet spot.
Yep.
Like I go back to like you're talking about, can we have these older people? Denzel was 52 when he did Deja Vu, which is an incredible Tony Scott movie. And there's some great action stuff in it. And there's a lot of like wacky tech and stuff too. That's a movie that does a good job of balancing like all the side people with the main like action
Mhm.
people. Enemy of the State, Will Smith, which is the pseudo sequel to The Conversation with Gene Hackman. Will Smith's running around like kicking all kinds of ass in that movie with like the entire like youth orchestra of Boiler Room is chasing him basically with all kinds of NSA tech or basically Facebook these days. But I mean that like Will Smith was maybe the last of those action stars, and then now he's even aged out of it because when he does stuff, it's just putting over his kid or slapping Chris Rock in the face. Who hasn't wanted to do that, by the way?
I mean, yeah, like what's the last big action movie that came out that was like a pure action movie? Bad Boys for Life?
Yeah, and what? Both those guys are in their 50s? Yeah.
Or
Well, they did
Well,
Ride or
possibly
Die
older?
this past year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
ride or
well,
Yeah.
die.
excuse
Yeah.
me, Ride or Die. I got the name wrong.
Yeah.
I can't keep up. It's Bad Boys
And the
4.
Mission
Call it
Im
Bad Boys 4.
Yeah.
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 Or
And
like we
another
talked about,
thing,
it's part of some big IP like Transformers or Marvel or something like that.
Yeah.
here's something that Lindsay and I were talking about earlier is when's the last time a really good mob movie came out? The last one I can remember, I don't know, what was that? Italian Job, maybe? I don't even think that was
I did like
mob.
the Italian Job.
Good.
It wasn't, yeah,
I really don't know, but stuff
like
stuff like
mob action movie.
stuff like that, they just don't do anymore, and I don't know why, because I happen to love that genre, but and it's really good, and they make some real classics with it, but they just don't make those types anymore.
I think because everybody tries to make one and they're trying to make some version of Goodfellas or some knockoff of The Godfather, and they just keep harkening back to those like linchpins, and those are great movies, no doubt, but they don't, for whatever reason, people can't get off of that train, and like, well, I got to make it just like that or whatever, or they end up making like a based on a true story kind of thing, and then it becomes like really self-serious and like you said, Lindsay, sort of preachy. Because
Yeah.
like real police work is, no offense, guys, it's kind of boring. It's a lot of long nights, and there's a lot, not nearly as glamorous as it was. And I think that's part of it is we know. I blame a lot of that on the rise of all the true crime documentaries that we've had over the years. Like we've sort of demystified it
Fair.
so much now that, well, that's bull. I know that nobody would do it that way. So we don't believe it anymore. We've stopped believing in the Tooth Fairy or whatever.
I feel like instead of trying to make Goodfellas, action movies would be a lot better off if people just watched a bunch of the spaghetti Dirty Harry movies that Italy put out in the 70s,
Yes. Yeah.
because those are just lean and mean run and gun action movies. Like one dude crashing cars, running through piazzas or whatever, plazas, whatever they call it. I don't know enough about Italy. Um, Smashing through statues and shit. Just like give me that. Like that's what I want. Make the mob the bad guy, or make the mob the good guys. Who cares? Like just work it in, but
That
give me some shoot 'em ups with my mobsters. Like it don't all have to be Dolomite versus the mob. Some of it can just be, like the movie. One of my favorite discoveries back when we had a video store was this movie called Tony Arzenta, aka Big Guns. And if Big Guns doesn't tell you what's exactly happening, Alain Delon shows up in a 70s suit with a gun. He crashes a car into a guy. There's literally a shootout around a fountain. It's fabulous.
Well, they tried that several years ago with that Paul Giamatti, Clive Owen thing called Shoot 'Em Up, but it was just so stupid that you couldn't enjoy it. That should have been a lot better than it was. Like I remember seeing that and going like, oh man, this is just a kind of a letdown. It's like it's a video game where I don't get to hold the controller, and that's not very fun to watch either.
And yet, if they did a good Hitman movie, it would be fantastic.
Yeah, instead of trying to pay off Timmy the old man's house or whatever he did that movie for.
And I'm
Yeah.
a big Tim the Oliphant defender, but like
Oh,
he's
he
not
mailed
that
that
guy.
in. He'll tell you he did. Yeah, he would do that. So,
So wait, who
but
do you guys think could be if given the opportunity? Like, let's dreamcast who under 40 could be the next big action star.
I think it would depend on the movie type. Are we talking like a gangster movie? Are you talking about like a hitman? Are you talking about
Let's talk about what about
I
like a
I'll
Lethal Weapon Die Hard type of
I'll,
movie.
I'll, I'll
Not
give you
necessarily
one.
Christmas, but like, that type of just straight action movie.
I'll give you one, and he's coming out in one later this year. It's a remake of something. Glenn Powell could do it. He's got a
Glenn.
lot of great chops. I mean, he's done a lot of funny stuff, but he can be pretty sinister, I think,
Yeah,
if you give him
he's
the
in
right thing.
everything right now
Yeah.
too.
Well, he's
And
coming out
he's
in the remake
already
of The
kind of
Running
an
Man.
action star because
Yeah,
he's in Maverick.
he's coming out, and he did that Hitman movie, which is a dark comedy, but there's some action in it.
Mhm.
He's funny in it. Twisters was kind of but he's coming out in a remake of The Running Man. Ron, I know you can talk about that later, but I know that source material, and it's a lot darker than the Schwarzenegger version. And I understand they're trying to hew more toward that. They do that. I think he could do it. I think he could carry it like an action movie and stuff because he's got the looks, and the charisma,
Mhm.
but he can also be like really gritty, you know.
Yeah, I could see
That would
that.
be my nomination would be Glenn Powell.
I asked that question without having an answer. I just want you to know that.
I'm sitting here like thinking of people, and it's like, oh no, Alan Richardson is like 43 or
Mm.
44. And it's like, what about so and so? Is like, no, he's 42.
no, they're all in their 40s.
She
I was even thinking originally maybe Jake Gyllenhaal. He might
Mhm.
he might
Mhm.
be able to do it. I think he could play a solid hitman.
Sure.
Mhm.
But he's 44.
Even Glenn Powell is getting close to
He's
40.
almost 40. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom Holland's not 30 yet, but it's going to be so hard to wash the Spider-Man sheen off of him. And he just looks like a little kid,
I
he's
was
just so
gonna say, yeah,
little.
Tom Holland would be a tough sell, I think,
Yeah.
just because
honestly, if we're picking somebody from Tom Holland's sphere, I would rather see Zendaya do an action movie.
I could see that. Yeah. Look at
Yeah.
Gal Gadot, like when she was in
Yeah.
the I can't which was it Too Fast, Too Furious? No, it was the Tokyo Drift, I
She
think.
no, she was in
She
like the
was in a
fourth and
couple.
fifth
Yeah,
ones or
yeah,
She,
something.
she was in like
But she was
yeah.
in
And
the
five or
she was
Israeli
six or some
army,
shit.
so
so
she's like
thin.
literally an ass kicker for a living. So
Yeah, but then she put on like 30, I was like 30 to 40 pounds to play Wonder Woman
yeah.
to be like an actual action star. And it was
Yeah.
crazy. I mean,
That
Zendaya
first
could do
Wonder
it.
Woman movie's
Could
good.
do
Like
it.
she's a good action star in it too, even for
Yeah.
being IP. Yeah, I agree. She could have done. Ana de Armas could. Her action scene in No Time to Die is probably the best thing in that movie. I'm with you, Brian. I'm not a big fan of those Daniel Craig movies, but she was good in that. I liked her in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
if
she
I,
was.
I look at like somebody like Zendaya, and I could easily see her gaining enough a muscle to to be like a Zoe Saldana type.
Okay.
Who I don't know if anybody else here has seen Colombiana, but it's
Mm,
pretty good.
yeah.
She's and it's pretty good. But you can't do the thing of where you have 100-pound woman beat up some 250-pound gorilla. Like
True.
that just you're I have a hard enough time believing Tom Cruise could beat up Henry Cavill. Like
Yeah.
Tom Cruise has crazy eyes. So
Yeah.
he's gonna gouge an eyeball out or bite some testicles or go for the throat or like
Right.
step on a kneecap or some shit. Like
Yeah.
but you gotta if you're gonna do something like that, it's gotta be somebody who's got some either some heft and substance to him, or it's gonna be somebody who is clearly gonna outsmart the gorilla somehow.
Yeah.
All
Henry
Or
right.
Cavill,
I've
by
both.
the way,
got
is in his
one.
40s now, but he could have done it when he was playing Superman. He was like he may be one of the best villains ever of a action series. That I feel
And
like
he's so great in The Witcher.
yeah, when they killed him in that Mission Impossible movie, I was mad. I was like, no, you need to keep him. Like he's the best thing in this movie.
He should have gotten
Mhm.
like a spinoff movie. Like,
He was fun in Argyle too. Like
Yeah,
he does well in actiony type movies.
it would have
Is
been
it
an interesting
possible we
Bond.
don't see actors fitting, like younger actors fitting, because they've all started in such a different genre that it would be hard to see them cross over into this? Like Sean
Yeah, the
Connery started, James Bond when he was 32,
yeah.
right? But it's kind of hard to picture some of these people
Yeah.
playing that same character.
I mean, I was gonna say Zac Efron, but it's hard to not think of him as the Zac Efron from High School Musical, even
well,
though he's big and buff now.
well, the good thing is his face doesn't look like that anymore, so maybe
It's true.
they can
It's
Yeah.
work around
true.
that. He's
He's
got
got
some
a nice
some
square jaw now.
I'll
he's
give
made
you
some
all another
questionable
one.
face choices.
I'll give you another one because I recently rewatched Tenet, and I love that movie. Aaron Taylor Johnson is in his 30s, and he's been in a lot of action stuff, and he's got a kind of a bit part in that movie. He's good. Like he could carry an action franchise. He's really cool. I kind of want him to get Bond. I don't think he will, but he's he's good. He could do it because he can be really big and buff, but he doesn't
Hmm.
look like a gorilla. But you can put him in a fight with somebody, and he can act. Actually, that's the other thing is he actually can act, so he can do stuff.
Yeah.
He would be good. Y'all got me on this idea of Zendaya though, because I think you're right. Like she could look like an athlete, you know. You just can't have her
Yeah.
beat the crap out of, Dave Batista, like the old Batista, not the new one. But
Yeah. We went on a Batista movie binge earlier this year,
yeah,
actually.
there's a few of them.
We watched everything that he was in.
That Knives Out sequel, Glass
Yeah.
Onion. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was the one where he's the dad? I can't remember. On the
Oh,
field
the
trip.
yeah, the
I
oh,
can't I can never remember. I ask Brian what that movie is every time I try to talk about it, and I can never remember the name of it.
like they all at one time did that. Vin Diesel did that. The Rock did that movie, where they're the dad protecting the,
Yeah.
child or whatever.
The pacifier, I think, is what it was.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
that
that
was
was
Vin
the
Diesel's.
yeah.
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 Where he had to do like the hokey pokey or whatever to unlock the secret vault or some nonsense. It was funny, but I can't remember that. But see that again, that was a memorable start because you would not believe that guy to do that. And then you see it and it works because it's a little off, out of cast or whatever. But
I mean, Taron Egerton has done plenty of action movies.
yeah.
But I don't know if he's believable as an action guy. Like maybe I just haven't seen him lately. Maybe he's bulked up or something. But I feel like Aaron Taylor Johnson might be the best choice for the
Well,
male side.
Taron
Yeah,
Egerton
but
was in that Carry On movie that came out on Netflix around the holidays, and it was pretty fun. It's kind of like Die Hard 2 remade with Jason Bateman, but he's pretty good. He's got some action in it.
Oh yeah, he's
but
not 40 yet. I'm sorry.
but
Go
even
on.
Aaron Taylor Johnson will never
Mhm.
be as intimidating as Sylvester Stallone and Rambo. And I think
No.
that's kind of the part of this, right? Is
Mhm.
a lot of us kind of grew up with those movies, and now if they were to come out with something, we'd just kind of look at it and be like, oh well, Rambo would have beat the shit out of you. Like there's
Yeah.
it's like there's not enough steroids in Hollywood anymore. There's no more
No,
juiced up
see,
actors,
you're
and that's what it
you're
is, I think.
no, you're wrong. There's plenty of steroids. I mean, look at Ryan Reynolds. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
he has lived
he's
off of
fun.
steroids for years. Look at what they did to poor Camille Nanjiani. But the problem isn't the fact that there's no steroids. There's plenty of steroids. The problem is nobody smokes anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Everybody looks too young. Like Taron Egerton still looks like he's in his late 20s and he's 35, right? Like hits, like Tom Holland, hit some Marlboros, drink some whiskey, age a little bit, and then maybe we can come back and talk about you.
All right. What about Kit Harington?
He's
Game
almost too
of Thrones,
pretty.
Jon Snow.
He's
Yeah,
almost
but
too pretty.
he can unpretty.
Yeah. He
Yeah, but he's
can.
also like 5'6" or something.
That
That's
also
Is he that
hurts.
short?
Yeah.
I don't think. Well,
Yeah,
so
he's
is
not
Tom
big.
Cruise.
That's true. Cruz is an apple box. Yeah.
yeah, but like look at him next to his wife, and his wife's like
That's true. She's very tall
visibly
though.
taller than him.
She'd be
Mhm.
good.
You
She
know
would be
nothing, Jon
good.
Snow, especially lifts. Anyways. But he could maybe work. I I hadn't thought about him in a while because he kind of disappeared after Game of
He kind of
Thrones.
did.
Like, yeah.
Him and the other guy, Rob Stark,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
disappeared.
Yeah.
I think he went back to theater. What I understand, like he's for most of those guys were working anyway. So
Just make like just find someone who's like a non-problematic Luc Besson and make an action movie. You
was
can't
the
use
other,
Luc Besson. You can't use Luc Besson
yeah.
anymore because he's canceled and he's gotten himself canceled, and justifiably so. We should have known that years
Oh,
ago. But
okay, this is a good Game of Thrones tangent, real quick. Why do you think Jason Momoa hasn't? I mean, he's done big movies and stuff like that, but why hasn't he like broken out beyond being called Drogo? Because that was the. I mean, when it's all said and done, that's what people are going to remember him for, not any of this other.
Really? I think people are going to think of him as Aquaman.
Aquaman.
I don't know that movie. Like you watch it and it self erases. Like I don't think that's lasting as much. That DC stuff just died. So
Yeah, well, I
I,
don't know. It's because Marvel fans go hard, like way too hard
they
for
they do, and
Marvel.
I agree with that. Yeah. So
But I don't know. I think Jason Momoa is like his own special thing. When I look at him, I don't think Khal Drogo. I don't know why I can't say that. But I don't I mean, that's where I was introduced, even though he'd been in several things that I'd seen prior to that. But he stuck out in
mm.
Game of Thrones. And then ever since then, he stuck out more because he's just so giant. But or he has a giant
Well, he is. I
uh
mean, he is literally a
personality.
big
Yeah, he's
person. Like he's a
huge. That
big dude.
yeah,
You know? He literally is a huge person. Like yeah, especially Hollywood standards.
Such a big personality.
Big personality. I like how you said that. Yeah, but I mean, no, he
Well,
does. But even like
he's his
to your
own
point,
thing
Brian,
now.
like if you put his Conan the Barbarian against Arnold Schwarzenegger's, that would last about 30 seconds. Like Schwarzenegger was just a beast.
Yeah, and that's what I
Yeah,
mean. There
that's
there is
true.
no up and coming actor that I feel would beat Stallone or would beat The Rock or anybody like that. And anybody that I'd see on the screen trying to play those roles would just look underwhelming, I feel like. They just couldn't do it. Because in the back of my mind, I would always be thinking this other guy would have beat the shit out of him.
Man, I've slipped in my viewings of professional wrestling pretty much since the pandemic. It was just never the same for me after that. But I think Hollywood needs to tap that well and see if they can find the next Rock or John
The problem
Cena.
is all those
it's
super over guys are
it's
all way over 40.
it's funny, Lindsay. You say that, and I'm just sitting here like, why does Roman Reigns not make two bad action movies a year?
Right?
Thank
He
you.
could. He
Yeah.
should.
I don't know
I
if he
mean,
He
doesn't
you
want
can't use
to or
like
what. Yeah.
you can't use like Jacob Fatu or somebody because he would
Yeah.
really murder stuntman because he's a maniac. But like,
Yeah,
well,
but Roman Reigns would be a good pull.
here's the thing: WWE used to make some halfway decent action movies.
Those Marine movies are not terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, they just throw a wrestler in there, call it the Marine 15, whatever. So here's the thing: why are they not working with their new corporate overlords at TKO to do movies around some of these mixed martial arts guys?
I don't know.
Because kids aren't glorifying it anymore. They're
Mm.
What,
going
mixed
away
martial
from
arts
that.
or
I
wrestling
think
or
just
both?
that whole movement, right? They're not trying to make somebody an absolute badass that's untouchable or anything. Even if it is just mixed martial arts, it feels like they just want to get away from that.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
That's what I feel.
but they got to do. I don't understand like why.
Kids these days are soft.
Look, if I'm like 32 years old and I've been in the UFC for 5 years, why would I not start to plan my second act before my brain gets scrambled or before I end up looking like Randy Couture?
Well, Conor McGregor is making a valiant effort. He's trying to.
Well, when he's not doing sex crimes.
Fair.
That's true.
That does take a lot of time out of his day, I think.
Yeah,
but-
he's very busy doing cocaine and rapes allegedly.
Yeah, he's
Well, actually, no, it's not allegedly. He was found like
that's
the court
It's
cases
not-
that were
it's
I don't
decided
think that's
against
even
him.
alleged anymore. It's yeah. But no, you're right. Like, why is there not somebody managing these people, telling them about their second act? And it's because they're milking the hell out of
Yeah.
them for that first act, man. There's a lot of Don Kings
Well,
in this world. You
and
know?
I think the thing too is like you get UFC's tough because we've seen a few UFC fighters try and fail hard
Rampage
at
Jackson.
e- Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they can't act. WWE, they can act. That's half of their job.
Uh,
So I feel like
But you don't need a guy that can act. Chuck Norris has made hundreds of movies
yeah.
and he can't
Hey,
act.
I'll give you a WWE star right now that they can make action movies out of. Rhea Ripley. And she would look like she could beat the shit out of half of the dudes, and nobody would like disbelieve it because she does it
yeah.
on a regular basis
Well,
anyway.
and Rhea Ripley's like like a legit like 5'10".
Yeah, she's tall. But she has charisma for days. She's got a great personality. She gets over when she's a heel. She gets over when she's a face. Like she could do it. She's got the personality for it.
Charlotte Flair was actually really good.
She
She's
was.
But
got a lot of charisma
but
too.
she's over
Yeah,
40.
yeah.
Is
We're
she?
going for the yeah.
Oh yeah.
She's over 40
Wow.
now.
She's
I
in
didn't
her
realize that.
she's like 45 or 46. She's
Yeah.
She
way
looks
older than
great.
she's older than you think she is. She got
Uh-huh.
started super late.
Yeah, she did.
Oh,
So,
I didn't realize that. Well,
but yeah, but again, like to your point, Ronda Rousey, not really there. Gina Carano, kind of act, but not really. Ray Ripley can act. Like she's
yeah.
good. She can put on a whole thing. She would be fun to put like again to your point, Ron. Why is WWE and TKO not putting out action movies with her in them? Like she would be a totally believable action star.
Number one, it's going to cost you no money. Number two, you've already got like film crews, directors. You've got all the equipment. It's just kind of sitting around there. You've got the connections with Nick Khan, who was a big wig at CAA and is a Hollywood super agent. He can find people. He can find scripts. This take $10 million out of your massive budget, write Rhea Ripley off TV for 3 months, have her come back. She's the star of the Marine colon. I don't know whatever the
Next
Australian version
generation.
of a
Yeah,
Marine is.
yeah, we got to tie it around her being Australian, but yeah.
Yeah, the Marine 17 colon
Down
gator
under.
slaughter. Yeah, and just yeah, and you know what? Stick one of the other people in there. Have Dominic Mysterio show up for 5 minutes as a sleaze bag. You know,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? Why not make a movie with Dominic Mysterio playing like a sleaze bag as the bad guy? He could be the bad guy. Have Rhea Ripley show up, kick his ass, whatever. You
Mhm.
know, or
Well, she would work.
Seth Rollins is over 40 now, but he can
Yeah,
still
for
probably
sure.
do it.
Mm.
Becky Lynch, she was in one of those Marine movies. I'm pretty sure.
Hmm. Yeah, what movie was she in? She was in there was a show, I think it was HBO maybe called Billions that Becky Lynch made a
Yeah.
cameo in, and she was great.
Yeah, Billions was a good show.
It really
So
was.
Melissa Barrera could be an action star. She looks
Hmm.
believable, like she can kick some ass. Like I would buy her because if you haven't seen that Abigail movie, she has some pretty good action scenes in that. But she's great in those two. I mean, I don't like those two Scream movies, but she's good in them, and so
I
she
feel
could
like it's
act.
been way easier for us to name potential female action stars than it has been to name
It says a
potential
lot.
male
Yeah,
action stars under 40.
well, it says a lot, doesn't it? Yeah. But I don't think the dude's
So
skewed toward
interesting.
that anymore. Like Timothy Chalamet, as cool
He's
as he is in
so
those Dune movies, like, he ain't gonna beat nobody's ass.
he's just a little peanut.
Yeah, I know. He's just like you want to pat him in the head and let him play Bob Dylan,
Yeah.
which he's
And
good in
he's
that.
great. He's great at what he does, but he's just a little
Yeah, he ain't gonna be
he doesn't ooze action star.
Hey, give me my gun. I've got to do some murdering.
that. Austin Butler could. He's a big, tall guy. He could pull it off maybe in the right thing. He could
But
be a good bad guy.
he would probably do it in Elvis voice the whole time though.
No, which is sad, but yeah, you're true. So it's hard to break
All
out of
right, all
that.
right, all right.
Just ask Ariana Grande. So
So next big question. Brian, you first. What are your top 3 favorite action movies?
Wow. Really just put me on the spot right there.
Well, we already talked about it, so I know at least a couple. It doesn't have to be like your top 3. Just right now, in the moment, first 3 that come to mind.
I mean, it's hard to beat Goodfellas as a gangster movie. That's definitely one of my favorites there. John Wick, the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is gonna sound lame.
I know what you're gonna say.
Fast and Furious.
Oh, that's not what I thought you were gonna say.
I was gonna
But
say,
Fast and
I
Furious.
think it was
great.
9 was the really good one with Jason Momoa in it. When he has all that hatred. I really like that film. I'm a sucker for those films. But what did you think I was gonna say?
I thought you were gonna say Blues Brothers.
No, not top 3 of all time. But I do love that movie.
In
What
the
about you guys?
archives of Film Strip.
Yeah.
J-Ron. Yeah,
Blues Brothers top 3 car chase movie, for sure.
Yep.
for sure.
But for me, like my favorite action movies aren't really made in America. At least things that have come out recently, like Invasion USA, also in the archives, is a classic and one of my favorite action movies. We've talked about my love of Lethal Weapon here fairly recently with Shane Black Christmas. But like my favorite action movies are like The Raid, The Night Comes for Us, which hopefully will be coming out this year. He says, even though we recorded it, I don't know how many years ago, Lindsay.
James has to edit it finally. So
And ooh, I want to say the Carl Urban Judge Dredd was a blast. I love that whole aesthetic that they have, and I wouldn't consider that a straight action movie. It's kind of like an action sci-fi movie. So, but also that's why it wouldn't be Judge Dredd. It would be Aliens.
Were you? Oh, Aliens. Damn,
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that one.
Oh, you know
That's
what?
a good pick.
I'd swap out my last one for the first Terminator.
yeah,
That's
I
a
was about to
great
say
choice.
that. Terminator's in my top one. The first Terminator, Die Hard, and Lethal Weapon are like top 3 that come to mind. Like I can watch those now and find something new to enjoy about each of them.
I forgot about Mad Max. Mad Max would be like
Oh
number
yeah.
4.
Something that should be in the archives if the old Skype recorder we used didn't like completely kerplunk and murder 3 podcasts right that recorded once back in the day. But oh well. That's why we don't do that anymore.
That's okay.
So
I actually recorded one, same thing, Mad Max, Fury Road, though,
Mhm.
with the ladies, Irina and
Yeah.
Ryan. And that one also lost to the archives, or not the archives, just lost in the ether forever.
It's hard. Yeah. Fury Road's a good one though. No, I mean,
Blast.
more. I'm with Ron. Like I grew up on stuff like Invasion USA and Rambo 2 and all that stuff too. But even I mean, I like the first 2 John Wick movies a lot. The third one I started to feel like I was getting into La La Land, and I never bothered with the fourth one, but because I thought he should have died at the end of the third one. Spoiler alert. But like again, I've been rewatching those Bond flicks, and like some of those they're goofy, and some of them are really good action movies. Like GoldenEye is a badass action movie. That's a really good action movie, and Living Daylights is a good action movie.
Yeah.
License to Kill is a straight up action movie. In fact, it's more of an action movie than it is a friggin' Bond movie.
Yeah,
know?
License
Yep.
to Kill is like an action movie they slapped James Bond in because they needed to keep the rights or something.
Yeah, it feels like a Golden Globe has produced the James Bond movie in a lot of ways. So.
Yeah, but I don't think Cubby Broccoli got into the excuse me, Broccoli got into the Golden and Globus supplies. Although you never know, it's the 80s.
Definitely not.
Do a lot of coke
So-
and vote for Ronald Reagan.
So Jay, being a big James Bond guy, what is it that those movies had that none of the Daniel Craig movies ever had? What is it?
It's the mix of the humor with all the action and the villainry and all that kind of stuff. Like the best Bond movies have a perfect balance of Bond, a good villain, the villain's got a good henchman, Bond's got a good sidekick, and the Bond girl actually has a brain and does something. Like there's more of those than people think out there. And if you get those things together and then you throw in the Q gadgets, that's what makes them fun. But like all those Brosnan movies and the 2 Dalton movies, and even a lot of the Roger Moores are good action movies that blend a good bit of comedy and let you have a breath. every now and then. And it's easy
Yep.
to tell that like the bad guy is the bad guy. He's not fighting for some moral reason or whatever. He just wants $1 million or to take over the world or to poison fish or some nonsense. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
or
that's
it's easy to
Yeah.
do that when your bad guy, shows up and it's like Christopher Walken. Oh, okay. We know he's not here for any good purposes. You
no,
know,
yeah.
Donald
I can't believe
Pleasance.
you pulled
He's
View to a Kill, Ron. That's pretty good. So
Yeah.
well, I
Well,
mean,
that's
just
like Die Hard. Bad
yeah,
guy's just the bad guy. Alan Rickman's just a dick.
he's
Like
just a
he's
thief, but an
just
exceptional
there
thief.
to yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's just there to he doesn't have a higher purpose. He's not trying to do anything other than
Yeah.
steal a bunch of money.
Yep.
Exactly. And
and
get
I
away with
think
it.
action movies were better when bearer bonds were a thing people could steal.
I mean, right? Yeah.
That's what
Also
it's
a movie that
missing.
features a lot of smoking. Go back to your
A
original
lot of
point, Ron.
smoking.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think in the newer action movies, it seems like the hero is able to get hurt a lot more. Like Daniel Craig certainly gets hurt a lot more than any of the other guys ever did.
Yeah.
He gets himself in positions where you
Mm.
really think he actually, might die just from getting hit by a bullet or something. And the other guys, that just never even happened to him.
Even
And it
even
kind
when
of
they
comes,
would get in bad situations, you knew they would get out of it. But that's half the fun, you know. It's I think we've tried to make our heroes too vulnerable now, and they get beat up too much, and it's like, well, nobody can take all that shit, you know.
The
I
only
mean,
Yeah.
person who should be beating up the hero is the number one henchman, and then possibly the big bad, but usually just the number one henchman because he's the muscle, not the brains.
yeah,
right.
most of
Yeah.
the Bond villains weren't violent. Like they didn't do physical stuff. They were like Donald Pleasance is literally sitting there stroking a cat, you know, and being weird, and you only live
It's
twice.
being weird.
So, but it works, right? Like because he's got good hinge people, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff works. So, well, gang, let's move on to our second, quick topic here. It's 2025. There's stuff, slated to come out, of course, all subject to change. But what's some of the stuff coming out that you're really shipping for this year, Ron? What about you?
The first thing I thought of immediately was 28 Years Later, which is not an action
Yes.
movie, but will be full of action. I don't know. I kind of consider the first 28 Days Later kind of an action movie, as much as it is a horror movie because it's him, Cillian Murphy, who should
Man
have
on the
made like
Run.
five good action movies by now, but decided to be a real actor and win Academy Awards and shit. Um, boo.
He's in
You
Red
should
Eye. That's
be
a great action movie, by the way, with Rachel
Red Eye is
McAdams.
fabulous, and I wanted like three more movies like that, but no, he's like, no, I'm a real actor. I could do real acting things. Boo, boo, I say. But yeah, 28 years later, the trailer looks incredible. It looks exactly the kind of craziness I'm interested in. Um, Arland works his best magic when he's with Danny Boyle. To separately, they're not quite as good uh, as they are together. And I like some of Alex Garland's stuff too. But yeah, 28 Years Later is a big one. Another guy who did who did a bunch of action movies, but did them like 30 years too late. Liam Neeson. He's going to be taking on the Frank Drebin role in the Naked Gun remake. And as much as I'm anti-remake, I'm pro Liam Neeson in that kind of deadpan comedy because I go back and watch that clip of him on Life's Too Short where he's improvising with Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant at least
No,
twice a year.
no, no, my friend. You go back and watch him in the Deadpool when he's going, it's a homage. And you know
Yes,
that
that
man
too.
can be comedy gold.
But you guys know the clip I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. And then I'm on the fence about this one. I like Edgar Wright. He's the closest thing to like one of those like Guy Ritchie auteur type dudes that we're gonna get these
Yeah.
days. And he's doing The Running Man. And I'm interested. I don't know if I'm excited because I feel like it's not gonna be the Running Man from the 80s, and that's great. You're not gonna do the Arnold thing. Perfect. I don't know if how filmable of a story that is, and that's concerning.
It's pretty dark. Yeah, if you haven't read the Bachman book, it's pretty bleak. But there's a story there. There's something to do. So I'm curious about that one too, Ron. Lindsey, Brian, what about you guys?
Well, I'm a big Mission Impossible fan, so I'm excited to see that one come out. Which is for the same reason I have Equalizer 4 on my list as well. I do love the Equalizer franchise. Denzel is one of my favorite actors of all time. And then Ballerina, I think, looked really, really good again. But these are all just kind of following off of what was previously made from when they were really, really kind of in that zone of making these types of movies. So I'm really looking forward to sequels of what I already know and not exactly anything new. Which I guess just kind of makes me a bit of an old man, but that's okay. So
Says the youngest person on the
I mean, none of
podcast.
my movies were original properties either. I have a sequel and a remake, and probably based off of a famous story slash is also going to end up being kind of a remake because I feel like some of that is going to bleed over. And also, I feel like Edgar Wright is going to take some stuff from They Live and put it in his Running Man.
Yeah, see that.
I'm also really excited about 28 Years Later, Ron, and a movie that I don't think anyone's shocked that I'd be excited about, Jurassic World Rebirth, coming out in 2025. Folks,
Yeah.
go listen to our episode number 400 where we
Mhm.
talk about how awesome dinosaurs are. And yeah, I guess I don't know. Equalizer 3 wasn't that great, so we'll see. But Ballerina did look good. We watched the trailer earlier today, actually. So
Well, that's what I was hoping they'd make up for it in the fourth one. Kind of
fair.
recognizing the slack in 3 and realizing, okay, we got to step it back up here.
That happened in
Sure.
that Jack Slater movie. That fourth one was off the friggin' chain, man. Back in the day, speaking of Schwarzenegger. So
Yeah, it looks like there's just a lot of sequels, a lot of nostalgia coming up for us in 2025. But I don't know. What about you, Jay? What are you excited about?
there's a movie coming out in February by Oz Perkins called The Monkey. It's a adaptation of a Stephen King thing, and that looks insane. And I will watch Oz Perkins direct anything. He did Long Legs, Black Coat's Daughter. I like him a lot. So Osgood Perkins is one of my favorite like horror directors right now. So I'm gonna watch that. I'm on the same train with that Mission Impossible, man. I'm gonna watch all those and then go and see that in the theaters and enjoy the hell out of that. That new Superman movie looks awesome. That's my favorite comic book character, and I feel like they've only got it right like once. And so, and that was the first Christopher Reeve movie. So I'm really pumped for this. It looks good. It looks like a comic book movie. So I'm pumped for that. They're remaking or making a sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer with Freddie
What?
Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt in it again as bit parts. So Ron, you and Brian and I might have to reconvene to talk about that because we had a good time talking about that last one. And then I'm going to go see the Wicked cringe title for good sequel because I got to know how you took a 2 hour and 45-minute musical and decided to make two 2 hour and 45-minute movies out of it because the back half of that story is not nearly as fun as the first half. And so I want to see what they do with that because I went and saw the other one, so I kind of want to, and I sort of have a blood feud going with Anthony, our friend from to the podcast about it. Not a blood
Oh
feud,
yeah,
but
he's
more of a
the best.
running fun about that. But yeah, those are some things I'm looking forward to. There's going to be some other stuff I'm sure, but again, it's recognizable stuff. It's IP I know, or it's creators and directors I'm interested in. Edgar Wright taking over that Running Man is interesting to me because I love Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I think that's a really cool movie that I think was ahead of its time and now has found its audience, years later. But that when it came out, I went and saw that and was just blown away. And so, um, I'm down for that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to this year. And then, uh, you know,
How did Superman make your list if most of them have been a letdown for you?
because I keep going back to it, waiting for him to get it right again. Because that first one was great. That second one, as a kid, was cool. And then when you learn how to think it all, and you watch it, you go like, "This is the most stupid shit in the world. Like, this is totally undoes everything." And when you realize why, like they fire the director, they do
Have
everything.
Have you seen the Donner cut?
Yes, I have. We reviewed it. Brian and I did way
Oh,
back
that's
in the
right.
day.
Yeah.
Yes,
Good
very
stuff.
good. Love that. And so I do love that version of it. Superman 3, I watched because it was on ABC all the time. And only to find out years later that the entire premise was off of a Richard Pryor like Tonight Show appearance, which is because he does the whole bit where he's like skiing off he does that on the show, and then they just wrote it in the movie and built the whole movie around it. Superman 4, I only watched because I found out the reason it tanked is because Life Force tanked and the studio didn't have any money, so they took all the Superman 4 money.
Now,
And
Jay, you know what studio it is. You got to say their names. We got to keep talking about them.
Superman Returns I didn't hate, but I feel like it got lost in its own stuff. And then I didn't hate the Henry Cavill ones. I just feel like everybody after Christopher Nolan, made Batman awesome with those movies that everybody wanted to do that with Superman. And I'm like, no, that's the problem is Superman is a totally good character. You don't make him, dark and broody because then he's just a fucking vampire. Like that's not what he does. And so, that's Angel's job. So yeah, so I keep going back because I love the character and I keep wanting somebody to get it right. And I feel like James Gunn's the right like sensibility for it. So, and he seems, I mean, that teaser trailer, I'm like, this looks like a wild comic book world, and so I'm down for that. They get a great cast too. I'll watch Nicholas Holt do anything, and him as Lex Luthor, I'm down for. So,
Man, you remind me of myself. This is going to sound so funny, but you remind me of myself when I was a freshman at Lehigh University, right? Because growing up in New Jersey, we always had good pizza. You're never that far away from good pizza. And in the dining hall across from my dorm, they always had pizza as an option. And every day, I used to think, "Wow, that looks really good." And I'd grab a little slice and I go and sit down as part of my meal, and you'd take one bite, and it tasted like absolute shit every time. And you know what? The next day, I would go back to the dining hall and think, "Wow, that looks really good. I bet it's going to be good." And I grab a little slice, and I repeated this all the
yeah,
time. But every time I seem let down, and that's exactly what it sounds like. You
hmm
just the
but
majority of these movies have been terrible for you,
yeah,
and
but
so it still
mhm,
made the list. I commend you for that.
But at
yeah,
school, you probably had the same cook. This has a different cook.
it's
And
different cooks
still
every
only
time.
and still only one of them has passed the test for them.
Yeah, for me, yeah, but I'll keep going back, keep waiting for. I mean, it's like I watch movies sometimes, and I keep waiting for it to be better. Like oh, maybe I just didn't get it, and I'll watch it. I'm like, nope, still sucks. Like, oh, Beetlejuice, great example. I'm like, this is gonna be great this time, and then the third act happens, and I'm like, no, it still sucks. And so and then the new one comes out, and I finally get around to watching it, and it's all hung up on Jeffrey Jones, and I'm like, well, of all the characters to fixate on, why that one, especially that guy, but why the dad? Like you had Catherine O'Hara, and you waste her in a movie. It's anyway, I could go on for days, but yeah.
Well, I hope it's good for you, but if not, maybe I'll have to send you a pizza or something.
Oh, it might be a good episode. We'll see. So, but speaking of which, we've got some fun stuff planned here. Lindsay, you've kind of built the theme for our February shows. You want to tell everybody what that's all about?
Yeah, I don't even remember how this came up. I feel like we were talking about Jennifer's Body um on
It
a
was on it
some
was on
other
one of those bracket
podcast.
shows that you did for
Yeah,
Season
yeah,
Podcast. Yeah.
and it so good. Such a good movie, and I think it just came out of that, and I feel like we needed to do a Foxy February. So we will have a February round of films us around Megan Fox.
You're starting with Transformers, right?
Of course
I
we
don't
are. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
every guy knows that answer.
Yeah. We're doing Transformers
Well,
and
you only
then
say that 'cause you've never seen Jennifer's Body.
I don't have to. It starts with Transformers.
yeah,
It, it
we're doing
should start.
Transformers and then Jennifer's Body.
J-
But our friends Misty and Kendall from Two Girls One Crypt will be on that show with us.
They're the
So
ones that say dadcore.
Ugh.
yes.
Brad doesn't like the term dadcore. I think it's great. Hi, Misty and Kendall.
Yes, indeed. Looking forward to that. That's going to be fun. More theme stuff coming up. I'll get I'm still working with Nate to finish up our Star Trek retrospective, and it looks like we won't be getting a new Star Trek film anytime ever. Talk about a dead property. So we're going to wrap those up this year. But I'm doing something fun with a group of our pod friends that I call Double O Film Strip. We've reviewed two James Bond movies in the past, I did From Russia with Love with our friend Preston Mitchell, and then Lindsey, you and I did Casino Royale back in the day. Both those are in the archives, but I decided it would be fun instead of trying to do the entire oeuvre of James Bond to take a single film from each James Bond era. In other words, when we had an actor playing the character, and then bring on a guest host to review that movie with me with a little twist on the format, and then bring all of those folks back together for a special film strip sessions on Bond. We're going to be doing Connery, Lazenby Moore, Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan, and then obviously Daniel Craig. And to do all of those things with me, I've got Matt Spalding, Andy the Action Movie Guy Gorham, Phil Walsh from Phil at the Movies, Mike from Amateur Tours, Preston Mitchell coming back, and then our friend Matt Bledsoe from the Retired Film Feast podcast. All of those guys graciously donating their time to come in and do that with me. And then, like I say, for that big session. So we'll be releasing those throughout the year. You can look for it here on the feed. Again, a little special series called 00 Film Strip. And then coming up in April, we're hitting our, what was the word you came up with for it, Lindsey? I'd never heard this before. It's our 15th anniversary.
Our quinceañera.
See, I did not know that was a thing, but yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah. 15th birthday party. Big deal.
yeah. So the jury out on what if we do something good or if we do what we usually should do, which is something trash. And so, so we'll see. We'll see what we vote through for that. But yeah, a lot of fun stuff. Ron, what do you got going on writing wise, man?
Right now, nothing. So, yay. Actually, I'm gonna finally get to live out my dream and do the RoboCop article I've always wanted to do, which it does. If you're familiar with the expression ACAB, all cops are bastards. One of the fun things that people do online with that expression is ACAB includes, I don't know, Al Pal from Die Hard, or does ACAB include Inspector Gadget? So my question that I'm asking is, does ACAB include RoboCop? And I'm aware that cop is in his name, but I'm going to make the argument that it doesn't. So that should be fun.
I feel like
people will hate that.
It's worth mentioning. Yeah, we'll have to link it, but we've never reviewed a RoboCop movie in 15 years of film strip, so we might have to remedy that this year and tie in with your article, I think.
Well, it's your move, creep.
Yeah, but I don't think we got to do the first one. Like that would be obvious. We should probably do like the second one and the third one. Yeah.
No, we should do the shitty made for Canada.
The Prime Directive movies.
The
yes,
4 Prime Directive movies. Yeah.
Yes.
The 51st State.
Yeah.
The Maple Leaf State.
Well, folks, it's been a lot of fun talking about this on Film Strip Sessions here with Lindsey, Brian, and Ron. Of course, you can find all of the shows we've been dropping, in the archives, all 400 episodes back now. Just go to wherever you find your podcast, search for Film Strip. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google, all the cool places. You can find us on YouTube now. You can actually go and watch us still shot and listen to us talk if you want to do that. Apparently, that's a thing now.
And it's doing good numbers on YouTube. I will say that.
Yeah,
it's been much better than expected. So go out and listen to Fatal Attraction. I think is the number one. So when it's the top two, the tops are like Fatal Attraction. I think Basic Instinct is in the top like 10, and then it's just a shitload of American ninja movies.
Yeah,
that for
really
some reason
popular,
have thousands of listens. So I assume it's people who are trying to look for like a copy of American Ninja to watch. But you know what? Stick around and listen to like 5 or 10 minutes of the podcast. You might have fun.
You never know what you might find in that for sure. So all that's out there, of course. And of course, you can follow the shows on social media at Filmstrip Pod. We're on X, Blue Sky, Instagram, all those kind of things. So we post about upcoming shows, and Ron's always good to share good memes and stuff on X and everything like that. So we're trying to keep it alive, before the terrorists win. So as we say, but we did get flagged on there. I'm just going to fuss about this because I have a platform to do so now. We got flagged on there for engagement farming. Excuse me, us? Like, we are not the engagement farming podcast. And when I appealed this, it was because I posted links to outside sources for media. And I was like, yeah, it's called a podcast, idiot. So, that was my actual response. I was like, yes, idiot, it's a podcast. I would like people to listen to it. So, but, so we'll still keep doing all that and, see what else comes up in the drink here on Film Strip. So until next time, for Lindsey, Ron, and Brian, I'm Jay. Thank you for listening to Film Strip Sessions.
Thank you for listening to Film Strip. You can find more episodes on our website, filmstrippodcast.com. The Film Strip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504, C2, Title 17.